Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Infield Report. My name is Isaac alongside my older brother, Tyler.
Hello.
We are back after a week off. We decided to not record an episode in the wake of losing Kyle Busch. We thought it was best to give everybody some space, some time. We both needed to take a little bit of time uh, and just kind of reflect on a lot of different things. We will do an episode dedicated to Kyle later down the road. We just want to make sure we give him his due respect and everything, and so we're going to hold off on that for a little bit. But we do want to acknowledge it. It was a very difficult weekend for a lot of us. I was not necessarily the biggest Kyle Busch fan, but as the years went on, and especially I'd say towards the middle of last year, I would say I kinda turned on him a little bit as towards the good. I started rooting for him a little bit, and, so it's just kinda tough to see one of the best that NASCAR's ever had, is no longer with us, especially as suddenly, but, we we do send our thoughts and prayers out to the Bush family, the RCR family, the Joe Gibbs family, the former, KBM family, and the entire NASCAR community. Like it's tough to lose somebody like that. Um, but you know, the NASCAR community did push on throughout the weekend, as rainy as it was for the Charlotte weekend, and it was supposed to start on Friday night, but unfortunately the weather didn't allow things to go as planned. The truck race ended up getting postponed until Sunday morning. The O'Reilly race, which was supposed to start at like 5 o'clock, I believe it did start on time, and then it got rain delayed, and um, so it kind of messed with the timing of things, and so it didn't get over till super late. And then again, like I said, they had to come back and run the Cup Series or the truck race before the Cup Series on Sunday, and so that kind of threw things off, and it kind of messed with the whole vibe of the weekend. I was at the track, and there was not as much buzz around the entirety of the midway, the stands. Like, you could definitely tell that things were not quite the same. Um, I've never seen so much Kyle Busch stuff in all my life. I mean, obviously, over the course of time, people buy it and people are fans and stuff, and then they kinda hide it away a little bit because maybe they don't wanna be, you know, viewed as a Kyle Busch fan at the track, but they might be in hiding. So, um, it was really cool to see everybody bring out their old Kyle Busch stuff and pay respects and stuff, and so that was really neat. But it was, like I said, you could tell the vibes were a little bit different, and, I obviously was not I was alive, but I obviously don't remember anything from when Dale Senior passed away. But there were a lot of comparisons to that weekend or the following weekend from that, and, it's a weekend I'll never forget for sure. But it was really cool to see a lot of things add up, or subtract from each other, if you even wanna call it that, with all the winning numbers of all the vehicles. Lane Riggs is number 34. If you were to subtract 9, which was, Chastain's number that he won in the O'Reilly series, and then the 7 from Suarez, if you subtracted those all from 34, you woulda gotten 18, which was Kyle Busch's number. So some pretty cool things that lined up to make those happen. But yeah, the racing overall was pretty good, very entertaining. The truck race was one that, like I said, it was run on Sunday, and due to time constraints and having to flip the track over and clear the grandstands and everything like that, they did have a cutoff time. I believe it was noon. So once it hit noon, I believe it was, noon, next lap was gonna be the white flag and then checkered flag. and so they didn't get to run the full distance, but they still ran a majority of the race. And like I said, it turned out to be a pretty good race overall. And like I had mentioned, Lane Riggs, who he was running with a UNC Charlotte paint scheme because he graduated from there. He won here at home, so it was pretty cool to see that. And all the winners did end up taking a bow for Kyle, which I thought was very classy. They didn't need to do that, but they did. And so it was really, really quite cool to see that. And like I said, there was some action on track that didn't necessarily go some individuals' ways. Um, Luke Baldwin blew himself up pretty early. Unfortunately, kind of a just nothing you can do about that. Corey Day and Minnie Tyrell got involved in an accident, and that ended the day for them. Corey Day wasn't even supposed to run the race. He was actually running the 7 truck for Kyle, and a very unfortunate day for him to finish 35th. But it was kind of a tough finish, like I said. But on the plus side of things, Christian Eckes picked up a stage win, and Lane Riggs also picked up a stage win. So it was those guys got some much needed momentum to keep their uh, keep going in a positive direction for them. And like I said, it was entertaining overall for the most part. Just kind of some things that you get into a lull after a while, and it can unfortunately happen on a track like this where the lead gets to a certain point and you just kind of you doze off for a split second. So it did have its moments, but then there was a lot of entertaining action on the restarts and a lot of guys jostling for position going into turn 1 and 2. And so it was a lot of fun to watch those early battles. But um, yeah, there were a couple guys that definitely improved their stock over the week. And you had a couple guys that came in that were not Truck Series regulars to kind of mix things up a little bit. Zilich came in and ran himself a pretty good and clean race, finished third. SVG came in and trying to get himself some more oval reps, and we'll talk about that here in a bit as well. But he ended up having a great day as well. You had Sawalich coming in, and he's bouncing back and forth between the O'Reilly and Truck Series, trying to get more reps under his belt. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came down. Brandon Jones came down. Ross Chastain, Corey Day. So a lot of guys that are not Truck Series regulars came in and decided to take their shot, especially here at home when they've got really nothing to lose. So just getting some extra seat time, which was pretty good. Uh, from your vantage point at home, I know it was a weird Sunday morning race, but what did you think of the action on Sunday for the Truck Series?
I didn't realize it was happening on Sunday morning until it was over. I was a little bit more focused on the Indy 500 that day. But I saw some highlights
No.
and it seemed like a really great race, just cut short. And I think I share that same sentiment of if it was that good of racing and it was going to be over relatively soon, a couple of minutes wouldn't have hurt.
I agree with you, but unfortunately, they got to do some track prep to get all of the pre-race festivities set up and things like that. But you know, other than that, what did you think of it as far as like I guess not watching it in the moment, but going back and watching the highlights from it? What'd you think?
It it was decent. I'm glad that they did get it in, albeit what was it, 12 laps short or how? Yeah,
Somewhere in there.
yeah. I knew. I think it was what the second timed race in Truck Series history because I think they'd done it before, or they shortened it or something like that, and people didn't like it then either. But I digress. I don't run the show, even though I think I should sometimes.
Yeah, it's kinda tough when they gotta do that. It's going up against the cup race later and stuff like that, but it was like you said, it was good to see him get it in. One statistic that I did see was, and it's kind of unrelated to the actual racing, it's or no, it is related to the racing itself. All 3 races for the Coke or for the Charlotte weekend, this is the first time in NASCAR history that all 3 of them have not run the scheduled length due to weather-related reasons. So
Yep.
not a part of history I wanted to be a part of, but, you know, something new's gotta happen every week, and unfortunately, that was part of it. But,
Yeah.
it was an entertaining race for the most part. Like I said, I mean, there were moments, like I said, where you kinda get into a lull and, longer runs and things like that, but I think that kinda happens anywhere you go. If there is a long run, you just kinda sit there and, like me being in the stands, if you're in the heat a little bit and you get a little warm, you get a little your blinks get a little bit longer, but it was it was all good. Like, it was still a lot of fun, just to go to. Um, the Xfinity race, O'Reilly race, I was trying to catch myself halfway through and still didn't get it right. Uh, the O'Reilly race, like I said, was pretty entertaining for the most part. They were running against the rain and, trying to get everything dried off, and the jet dryers and the propane guys, all the track officials definitely got they definitely made their money on Saturday night. They were trying to get that track green, ready to go, and it was just it was difficult once it had rained again, because it is so hard to dry that track, and, they were able to get over halfway, which is nice, but it was very difficult to watch them just keep trying to dry it out, and there was just little bits that you could tell were a little darker and stuff like that, but they ended up getting it in, which is good. Um, and Chastain getting the win was pretty cool. We didn't stay for the victory lane celebration because it had started raining right there at the end again, so didn't get to see that portion of it, but got to see Chastain come in and do his thing and just have a good time with it. Again, not eligible for points because he's a cup guy, but he definitely showed up and showed all these guys why, it takes an immense amount of talent to go run in the Cup Series and, getting the stage 2 win and leading a good quarter of the race, you know, he was he was just on top of it. Allgaier had a pretty solid car throughout the day, but unfortunately just didn't have he had some issues late. I think he actually ended up with some damage, I think, on the front end of his car, if I remember right, and so that kind of hindered his day, but it looked like it was gonna be an Allgaier win, and then unfortunately just didn't happen that way, but Zilich got a stage win. Again, doesn't necessarily matter for anything because he's running the Cup Series, but doing triple duty was definitely made things a little bit interesting for a couple of these guys. So, um, yeah, it was pretty fun to watch them battle it out, and watching Corey Day actually come in and run in his normal seat and still kinda kick some butt and finish 5th, so he's one I'm definitely, and I know I've shouted him out a couple times, but definitely keeping an eye on him because he's proven his worth, and so it's pretty fun to watch him run. You know, Cole Custer came down and ran a Cisco car as well as I think it was Canada Dry as well, and I don't think I've ever seen Canada Dry on a NASCAR car, period, so it was kind of an interesting every time he drove by, it's like, "Oh, yeah, he is driving Canada Dry." It's a little odd, but it works, but yeah, it was a pretty fun race to watch, and, um, It's the second year in a row I've seen Chastain win at Charlotte, but this time it was in the O'Reilly race, not the Cup race. But yeah, it was a pretty fun race to be at, and granted, it was weather shortened. What did you see from home that piqued your interest a little bit?
It was decent. I do agree with Denny Hamlin that they Goodyear is bringing a better tire. It's just NASCAR and manufacturers need to keep tweaking the car a little bit better. And we'll talk about that in the Nashville race here, here in a little bit. But the racing was all around decent. There's great racing. There's plenty of opportunities to pass. And towards the end, they were racing against the clock a little bit. And seeing a little bit of 2 tires, 4 tires, no tires. It was entertaining, and unfortunately, it was just the last 34 laps just couldn't be completed.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things too where you wonder how much different it would have played out had the weather stayed away. Um, but then that's also part of it too is you're racing the weather and you're trying to do everything you can to stay ahead and um, trying to trying to get any track position you can. So it was definitely a lot of fun. And like I said, seeing Chastain get the win was pretty cool. Um, I know it's an O'Reilly win, but a win's a win. So, you never know. It could end up carrying over to the Cup series or to the Cup race, even though they're different cars. But just the mentality of, okay, I know I've got the talent to win. I know I've got the talent to run this track really well. So sometimes that can transfer over from series to series. But um, yeah, I mean, Chastain did. I was gonna say he did fairly decent until he got involved in an accident, in the Cup race, but he was doing okay, like, he was running very well, and then just unfortunately, like I said, got caught up in an accident and couldn't finish the race, but, the Cup race was very entertaining. It looked like the Toyotas were just gonna run away with it, and, I mean, Denny and Reddick and Briscoe and Bell all looked to be like, cream of the crop. I think the only Chevy that really competed was Larson. Byron had some speed, but he got mired back in traffic, during the pit cycles and stuff, and unfortunately couldn't make his way back up to the very front, and I think he would have been a real threat to challenge. He was, like, top 5 in, like, average lap times at one point, so I think he definitely coulda challenged had he had some cleaner air to work with, but I mean, a top 10 finish for Byron is nothing to sneeze at. So he was doing very well. Another one I thought was potentially had a decent day going as well was Eric Jones. Uh, Top 5 stage 1 finish and then a top 15 overall finish. It was gearing up for a great end of the race for him. I mean, he was moving up through the field quite a bit too. So I thought he was coming up for at least a top 10. Uh, Unfortunately, with that race being cut short due to the weather, it didn't do him any favors, but I thought he definitely had a shot to make his way up there. But the call of the night went to Daniel Suarez and his crew chief. I mean, they took 2 tires, I believe, on that last pit stop, and it put him out in front. And then he had to fight him off. He had to fight off Bell and Hamlin and Reddick twice, if I remember correctly. And I think if it would have gone another 2 laps, I don't think he would have been able to hold him off, but he was fighting like heck to try to keep him off of him, and that caution came out at just the right time for him, and he was able to win, and that was an impressive drive out of Suarez. I'll give him that much. I mean, I know you never wanna win a race by, it being shortened by rain, But I mean, at that point for the weekend, I'm just glad they got a good chunk of that in. I mean, they ran 373 laps, and I was afraid they weren't going to get 300 in, but they they did a fantastic job all weekend trying to get that track going. And like I said, I mean, from your point of view at home on the Cup race, did you have any feeling that Suarez was going to win, or did you think he was going to get gobbled up there at the end?
Well, to use the phrase out of nowhere,
Yeah.
you know, he was kind of in the top 10, top 12, kind of all race, and he was kind of inching towards the front a little bit. And the last two pit calls that they did, they were right up front. I'm like, well, this is neat. They're on two tires, everyone else is on four. It's probably not going to end well in the long run, but let's just see what happens. And by God, his elbows were wide, and it paid off. Like I said, you don't want to really win rain shortened, but I think there was some sort of guardian angel or hand of God moment that said, okay, that's enough. Race is over. I don't want to
Yeah,
say
I got
maybe who did that, but I think there was divine intervention, which I'm okay with. I was okay
yeah,
with that weekend.
for sure. And like you said, I'm just glad they got most of it in. And I was looking at his average running position, which I know average running position. I've seen the statistic thrown around quite a bit, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, it doesn't necessarily matter." Not really, but his average running position was like 21.9. I think there were probably 2 instances where he cracked the top 10 and it was on pit stops and then he got mired back. So, he wasn't necessarily running the best all day, but the way that he was able to get back to the front based on strategy call, and at that point, like, he's been running fairly decently in the points, and so, like, at this point, or, when you're running, where you are, at that point, you just have to kinda try whatever, and that's what kinda makes this format fun is every race matters. Every position matters, every little thing matters, and so, like, after the Glen, Suarez was sitting 14th in points, and he was about 12 points above the cut line. So, you know, looking at that and, you're going, "Okay, well, I'm around the cut line. I gotta do what I gotta do to earn some stage points or even just points in general." You kinda have to try anything you can, and he did a fantastic job. Whether he finished in the top well, first of all, whether he won or not, at that point, you're just like, "All right, whatever." But you have to try to, you know, put yourself in as good of a position to win as you can, and he definitely got it to work. It was really cool to see him get the win and do it for Kyle, and it was really cool to see that. And there were a lot of people that were happy he won. It was it was really cool to see that, and especially after the heavy weekend that it was, to see Suarez win it was really cool. I do want to touch real quick on the pre-race ceremonies for the race. Typically, they do a lot of they do a military focused pre-race for the Coke 600, and from my understanding, it doesn't get televised. It should, but it doesn't. But it was a very very different pre-race this year, and I do want to applaud Samantha and Brexton and Lennox and the entire Bush family for even being at the race on Sunday, especially since it was only 4 days, 3 days after Kyle had passed, and the fact that they were there out in public in front of everybody, like, I wouldn't have blamed them if they weren't there, and the fact that they were, and everybody was there behind them was a really powerful moment, and I saw it on social media, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but somebody made a comment that Steve O'Donnell became president that day, where he said, that the entire NASCAR family has is behind the Busch family, and anything that they need, they'll be there for them. And so there was a lot of comparisons to Steve O'Donnell and Mike Helton, when they were, I guess, officially respected as the president, like the official moment that they became who they were. And that was a really cool moment to see that. And I don't recall it being televised either, but there were clips that came out afterwards and pictures afterward, um, that Kurt Busch went out and laid 8 white roses on top of the 8 that was painted on the infield. From my vantage point, where I was I was on the, like, right before you get to the start finish line, and from where I was, it looked like they were those little tea lights or tea candles, and I guess they're tea lights or whatever, and that's what a lot of people initially thought, but they turned out to be roses, and they stayed there the entire race. And, like, all he did was just lay them in the grass, and throughout all the wind, all the rain, they didn't move, and so that was really cool to see. Um, they had, I believe it was the Charlotte Fire Department, uh, they did the they did bagpipes with, Amazing Grace, and the bagpipes always get me, and so it was a very, very somber moment, and so it was really a a a moment in time I know for sure I'll never forget. And then for the Memorial Day race, they always do taps, and it was a different feel to this one. So it was really interesting to be a part of that, and, so, definitely a different race weekend for sure, but it was good to see the sport pay respect, and, we can't forget, like, even when they unloaded the cars off the haulers, NASCAR let the 33 and the 3 go first, which it's so weird saying the 33, but Richard Childress did say that the 8 is retired, and it's ready for Brexton. So, uh, big big amount of respect goes to Richard Childress for that, and, that 33 just doesn't look right on the car yet, and I know someday it might look, or it might become somewhat regular, but for now, it's still not quite right. But, that's just the nature of things. I don't think it'll ever be right, but we gotta move on from it, or try to make peace with it and move on. That's, I think, the proper way to go about it. But I do wanna, going back to the race really quick, I forgot to shout her out. Catherine Legg did a fantastic job. She attempted the double, and unfortunately, she got crashed out of the Indy 500 through no fault of her own. I felt terrible for her because she was running a heck of a race, and I thought she had a chance to finish the race. Like, I don't know that she would have had a top 10, but maybe a top 15 in the 500 in the Indy 500 would have been awesome to see. But then unfortunately got crashed out, so that kind of ruined her day. So she ended up in Charlotte, I think, about an hour and a half before she wanted to be, but she she did finish running, She was only, what is that, 11 laps down, which is not terrible in the grand scheme of things. So she did she had a successful attempt. So I'll give her that. But, I know there was not as much attention on her as I think there would have been if, Kyle had not passed away, but I think more attention does need to be shown to Catherine for the fact that she successfully raced in both races on the same day, let alone completed most of it. So we need to need to give her her props because she did a great job. And I mean, I know it's a lot to handle, and but she did it. So, um, and I saw a statistic that it made me laugh, but she completed more laps than Kyle Larson did. I don't know what you want to make of that, but it's unfortunately the truth. So
Funny, but it's true.
it is. Like I said, it's unfortunate for Kyle Larson because there was so much attention around him doing it. Catherine was getting a lot of attention, but then it wasn't clearly to that level, but she was getting a lot of attention for it, and then, it just kinda it got put on the back burner, but she still did a great job and gotta give her her props for it, so, um, yeah, it was, great to see her attempt it and do what she did, so, um, yeah, it was a good weekend for her. We're gonna jump ahead now to the Nashville races now, and the truck race was a bit of an interesting one. There was, again, some guys that came down and ran some races that typically they wouldn't. Raja came down and ran the 7 truck. Parker Retzloff still kind of boggles my mind, and I'll explain why in a second, but he ran the 62 truck for Hallmar Friesen Racing. Brandon Jones came down and ran another truck race, which, I mean, he hasn't done much of, but it seems like he's open to doing a little bit more right now. And William Sawalich came down, did another race, and Jesse Love, also not really known as a truck guy, but came in and ran the 77 truck. So, it was an interesting race. Like I said, Lane Riggs dominated again. I don't want to say again, but he dominated. Led 99 of 150 laps. I believe he led every lap of stages 1 and 2, swept the stages, and then they made some adjustments at the end of stage 2, going into stage 3. And whatever they didn't work because he slipped back and it did not look good for him. But they ended up making the right adjustments to get back on track. And he ended up coming back to win the race. Caden Honeycutt was looking to be the guy to beat him, and unfortunately, they had some battery issues, so they had to replace a battery and put him a couple laps down, and he never came back from it either. But he was trying. He, like I said, I thought he had a really good chance to maybe possibly steal the win, but couldn't quite get it done. There was some early-ish incidents with the 25 truck and the 42 of Tanner Reif. Jesse Love had an incident as well. Tanner Gray, Jake Garcia got caught up in a little bit of a tangle as well. So their days ended a little prematurely. But overall, like Nashville, for all 3 series, I don't know what was in the air, whether you had mentioned this earlier, whether it was the moon or whether it was the fact that it was getting to the end of the month or what the heck was going on. But there was incredible racing all over the racetrack. Now I don't remember if they applied the resin all the way around the track or if it was just in the turns. I think it might have just been in the turns, but that resin widened out that racetrack. They were able to run at least 2 grooves, if not 3, and it is the largest of the 3 concrete tracks that NASCAR currently races at. Bristol is obviously concrete, Dover is a mile, and then Nashville being it's like 1.3, something like that. I can't remember the exact length of it, but it's it's over a mile, that's for sure. But it was really, really a lot of fun to watch the the way that everybody was racing each other and, the fact that it wasn't a typical one groove racetrack like it has been, and they were able to make some moves. Now, granted, they had to make the moves early in the run, right off the restart, but when they were making those moves, I mean, they were aggressive, they were impressive, they were all over the place, and it was entertaining to me. What did you think on those restarts of them flying all over the track?
Oh, my mic was muted. I'm so sorry about that.
You're good.
Well, all three races were amazing. Are they the best of the year? See, probably not. But I didn't know that they. First of all, I didn't know that they put resin on the track, so that was interesting. I guess it's better than that PJ1 stuff, which I have opinions on.
We all.
But you know, the racing and the restarts were fantastic this weekend. Everything's trending in the right direction. Hopefully, it continues that way. And hopefully, NASCAR doesn't get too gung ho and say, oh, this resin stuff's working. Let's apply it everywhere.
If they
I
do
know.
that, I will fight somebody.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But as of right now, they're doing tiny, whatever they're doing, the little itty bitty stuff, it is adding up in a good way. Now, going back to the resin, don't worry, I'll touch on it quickly, relatively quickly.
You can take your
I
time with it.
I I don't mind it when they do that, but I wish they gave like a bulletin of why instead of, oh, we just want more racing, we want an extra lane. Why?
Yeah.
Why? That's kind of the questions I want to ask. But going to the racing, just like Charlotte, whatever tire compound they have and the package they have, it's working. Now they need to get better brakes, and we'll touch on that here shortly. But the racing is getting better, even if the cars are getting harder to drive. I don't mind the mechanical failures, but the brakes are one of the few where it's like, yeah, I don't want to see nasty hit after hit of like 6 different drivers almost in the exact same corner, 30 laps apart. That's not a
Right.
great image. But I'm glad that's a small little sticky note. It was overall great racing. To be honest, if Nashville was every week just like that, I'm pretty sure if you have 36 races, you're going to have probably 30 different winners. You will
Oh,
have
yeah.
people that are going to figure this track out. It will be entertaining. And this is coming from a guy who wants one minus a couple of caveats, go to one racetrack per year. So if I want
Like,
to go to the same
every
track,
track once.
every track once, yes. Minus Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, they can have multiple dates. But I don't know. Maybe have Nashville as the final race of the year. Who knows?
That would be fun. I mean, just based off the way that it was running this weekend with every series was super entertaining. I mean, like I said, on those restarts, I mean, you had guys going 3 wide, which you didn't see historically at Nashville. It was always a 2 or like they were saying, it was typically a single lane racetrack once it got drawn out, but there were points throughout the runs where you had guys going, they were actually 2 wide, if not 3 wide, trying to gain some positions, and like I said, you wouldn't see that normally. So whatever they did with the resin worked. And, like, I appreciate the fact that they wanted to do something a little bit different, but not destroy the track in the process. I mean, we all saw how that ended up at Texas a couple years ago, but what they did at Nashville was absolutely perfect. There was, like I said, so much entertainment throughout all 3 series. I mean, you had guys that I wouldn't necessarily expect to be running as well as they did. They were able to find ways to slice and dice through the field on the restarts and gain some track position, or they were able to find certain ways to run that maybe you wouldn't have in the past. And so it was a lot of fun to get to see those different techniques and different strategies, be it 2 tire calls, 4 tire calls, whatever. They turned out to be great. And so getting that sort of variance in instead of like everybody's coming for 4 tires here because this track is so abrasive, or everybody's just coming for a fuel only stop because what do tires matter here? Like, it was entertaining. I mean, so much fun, and I hope Nashville stays on the schedule. I have not. I'm actually going to go check real quick. Mind you, we're recording this late Monday night, but I'm going to look at Jeff Gluck's good race poll because I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to vote on it because I haven't. But as of it being up for 15 hours, this is the cup race only. But as of 15 hours of it being posted, it was posted at 8:23 on Monday morning Eastern time. As of 11:30 Monday night, it is at 89% yes.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not entirely sure what I haven't dug into the stats as far as what the highest rated race is, but that has to be top 10 for sure since he's been doing the poll, but that can translate to all 3 series, like I said. I mean, despite, like I said, Lane Riggs dominating stage 1 and 2 in the truck race, there was a lot of action throughout the field that they showed, which was really great to see. Same with the O'Reilly series. Jesse Love winning stage 1, Justin Allgaier winning stage 2. Not really some surprises there, but I mean, there were a couple of guys like, Brandon, well, I don't want to say Brandon Jones is surprising, but like Parker Retzloff being up there fairly high. Ryan C getting stage points in both stages. I mean, guys you typically wouldn't see running where they did found a way to find their way to the front, and were running very hard and running really good lap times and really good laps, and it was entertaining. The way that these guys were holding, like the young guys were holding their own against the veterans. Brent Cruz and William Sawalich were fighting it out there, and with Allgaier. And I mean, I thought Brent Cruz was going to get his first win at Nashville, just the way that he was running. But Allgaier showed why he is the veteran and why he has as many O'Reilly wins as he does. Because, I mean, he just came in and decided he was going to just sneak right on by Brent Cruz there at the very end. But nonetheless, entertainment all over the place. Uh, like I said, there was so much action, and I mean, the other fun thing was there was a lot of guys that were slipping and sliding all weekend too. I forgot to mention this for the truck race, but like the O'Reilly guys, some of them were all but sideways, Cletus included, which I know you've got some thoughts on him. So I'd actually love to hear your thoughts on Cletus real quick.
I'm not discounting his talent as a driver and entertainer. I do believe that everyone should pursue their dreams. With that being said, your name shouldn't be the one to accelerate you too quickly. Seeing a
That's
trend
valid.
at some of these tracks that he is doing at the O'Reilly series, I just about said Xfinity, at the O'Reilly series level, he's spitting out a little too much. I would either get him more seat time in the sim, or I would probably keep him in the trucks for now. Give him 1 or 2 seasons and then maybe bump him up. But he has to get a little bit better than this. He's spinning out a little too much. You can almost fill out an entire bingo card of what he's going to do, and you don't even have to put positive stuff on there. As spin, he's going to finish here. He's going to finish so many laps here. I do want him to succeed. I do. But I think he's being accelerated a little too quickly. That's my honest opinion. And I'm saying this as constructive criticism. Bump him down to trucks, but put him in a really good ride and a really good driver coach and a team that can vibe around him. And he will be better either with RCR or whoever he's going to sign with for 27 or 28 and then go from there.
For sure. I can see part of it. I don't know whether he's wanting to be like obviously with RCR giving him the call and getting him the O'Reilly ride. I almost said the wrong name again. But with him getting that call, I don't know that he excuse me, I don't know that he was the one reaching out looking for that O'Reilly ride, but you're right. I think it is a little soon, but they also said too, like coming down from 4, that transition onto the apron to pit road is rough for anybody. So like that's one thing, but him spinning at Rockingham, I mean, I'll say wrecking himself at Daytona, and he's had some other issues elsewhere. It's like you don't want him to get spread too thin on all the different vehicles right now. You want him to, I don't want to say master one, but get really good at one, get some fundamentals down, and then translate what fundamental wise up to the next series. So like I can see that argument. But then there's also the argument of, well, he's Cletus, he's bringing a lot of eyeballs, so why don't you move him up just a little bit? But
You
it's
need a
it's all a
balance.
balancing act.
Like I said, yep, it's a balancing act. You want him to look good, but if you make him look bad, those really those eyeballs that are willing to pay money to see him and to put viewership on your stat sheets, if he's not doing well, they're going to leave just as quickly as they hopped on. So I'm not saying give him the best ride and the best equipment and it's all going to be hunky dory. That's not it. But going back to the honing in on skill, yeah, you don't want him to only be in the trucks or only in O'Reilly or only in the Cup, but he's got to master discipline first and have it translate because it's increase in horsepower, a little bit less grip, a little bit less downforce, but also you're playing with bigger money too,
That is true.
and teams are only going to throw so much money at you, and they can only throw so much time. So that's why I'm saying bring him back down to trucks. Let him get really good at trucks. Maybe win a couple of races, and then maybe bring him in because he's got to know what he has. Yes, he's driving around a race car. That's everyone's dream. Now he needs to actually follow through on his dream and go, okay, now I want to win. I want to get better. I want to, he's starting really late, to be honest. I mean, if I
Yeah,
were to
there's
start,
there's no such thing as there's no such thing as too late. However, much later than these guys that are currently running.
if I were to start with the very little sim racing that I know, I'm going to suck just as bad as him. And I think I'm God sometimes on the sim, but then again, you know, I've got a,
Depends on the day.
I don't have the scare factor. I don't have the money. I don't have someone breathing down my neck saying, "Why are you wrecking my cars? Why are you wasting my time?" So
Fair.
there's a balancing act. Even though he's younger than me, I do want him to succeed because he's near my age bracket.
I
So
will
I
I will fact check you there real quick. He is just a couple months older than you are.
same age bracket. There you go.
Same age bracket. Close enough, right?
And like I said, I sometimes kind of keep my eyes on people in the NFL or NHL or MLB that are my age too. It's like you're living my dream. I'm going to live vicariously through you. Let's do this
Oh
thing.
yeah.
So I know we only have like maybe 2 subscribers or maybe 1 view a month. But if Cleese is watching this, take a step back, take a couple of breathers, because this one step back will put you 2 steps forward.
For sure. And like when he's running trucks, he's in a pretty solid ride. Like he's running with nice equipment, which is some really good equipment. Granted, it's no Tricon as of right now or Front Row or Thor Sport. It's not one of those teams, but Nice can definitely compete for wins and they have. And so it's not like he's at, a small organization. Nice is top notch in the trucks and RCR is top notch in the O'Reilly series. So I would say honestly, I agree with you here as far as give him all the time in the truck series that you need. And he is getting a shot this weekend in the trucks at Michigan. So it's a bigger track. It's a 2 miler. So that's going to be very interesting to see how he handles this in the trucks. It's a little smaller than Daytona, but obviously bigger than most everything else out there. But it runs like an intermediate. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it in a truck. But get him more reps in the truck. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Because 35th place finishes are not going to pay the bills. They're not going to be what keeps you in your seat. So, I mean, obviously, I don't. This is coming from me who doesn't do racing for a living. I don't do a whole lot of sim racing. I'm more of a controller guy, but um, it's one of those things where you've got to work on the fundamentals first. And like ARCA is one thing because you can buy a really good ARCA ride. That's why there's only like I'll say truly 4 or 5 true competitors each week in the ARCA or every week that the ARCA series runs because only so many teams invest that much money into it. That's why Venturini Motorsports, who's now Nitro, ran as well as they did for 40 years was because they were able to pump all the money into it. So when you have a really fast car and you have a good team, that kind of makes up for everything. But when you don't have that, that's what really tests who you are. So it'll be interesting, like I said, see what Nice can do with him in the trucks to help him continue to progress. But I agree with you. I think him moving up a little too quickly is a topic, a big topic of conversation. But um, you know, with him getting a couple more races under his belt in the truck series, I'm very curious to see what he can do for himself moving forward. But if we take a step back to the O'Reilly race here at at Nashville this past weekend, Dale Jr. went over to his car. I don't know if you saw this clip going around on social media, but Dale Jr. went over and stuck his head in the window and said something to him. And Dale Jr. was asked after the race, "What'd you say to Cletus?" And he asked him if he was getting dizzy running in circles because he actually finished the race. So, um, it's good to see him actually continue to progress and stuff. So, we'll definitely, like I said, he's getting some seat time here at Michigan in a truck. So we'll see what he can do with that knowledge and experience that he's able to gain this upcoming weekend. But there's going to be quite a few of them. So there's several. There's 36 entries, and there's a couple of rotating truck drivers that are coming through. So it'll be interesting to see what Cletus can do against them. But for the most part, that O'Reilly race was very fun. Like you said, a lack of grip was fun to see. These guys being sideways and going door to door and just giving it everything they had every single lap because like every driver was saying throughout the weekend, it's like it's super hard to pass once you get on the long runs. You have to do all your passing early, or if you catch a guy, you got to catch him and pass him right away because it's super hard to pass. But I think this weekend definitely changed things a little bit because those battles were super fun. They were just going back and forth and back and forth. So, um, yeah, no, I probably asked you already because we got off on a little bit of a tangent. But as far as that O'Reilly race, I mean, what did you see that you enjoyed or didn't enjoy?
Not too much to complain about, actually. It got a little stale towards the middle, but it was overall entertaining. I was glued to not only the screen watching the action, but I was also looking at the timing scoring as well, going, where's everyone at? I see, this person pitted here. They took this strategy. Oh, this one took this strategy, but he's ahead. Let's see how it plays out. And Allgaier at the end prevailed, and I don't think he's going to retire anytime soon anymore, I guess.
No.
So that was, I guess, a surprising hot topic. 'Cause I didn't know he was talking about it recently until, hearing Coffee with Kenny one day. It's like, oh, I didn't know he was contemplating that.
Yeah, no, that clip was going around. There was Coffee with Kenny, and then there was an interview that he did. I think it was just with Sirius XM, but there was a clip that went around to him talking about him potentially retiring at the end of this year, and it's like I I mean, you obviously never think that it's a possibility just because you think these guys are going to keep going and going and going, but you know with as successful as Allgaier's been, especially with him winning now 4 races on the year, like, I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean, like I said, he's a guy that I could see going for another couple years just based off of his skill set that he has and the fact that he's been doing the couple of cup races that he has with Junior, and he's been a Hendrick backup there for a minute too. So, he's had or he still has the talent to do what he needs to do. I mean, he's got his 40th birthday coming up here on the 6th, and he's still running like I mean, he's running like a veteran, obviously, but he's outrunning all these kids. So, I mean, he's still got it. That's for sure. I was just very surprised that all that retirement talk was even a thought with where he was at. But he's definitely done well for himself, and I think with him getting his 4th win and him being so far out ahead in points right now, like, maybe he's reconsidering that and maybe trying to see if they can figure something out for next year, but, I mean, he was that comment took me off guard this week. I think just like everybody else did, or it just like it did everybody else. So, um, yeah, maybe this week in particular can change his mind. But yeah, he was had himself a heck of a race, and um, good to see him back in victory lane again, especially with those thoughts. But the cup race was incredible. There was so much action going on. At one point, I mean, things were going on so fast I couldn't type fast enough. Now, granted, that was late cautions and everything, but the Trackhouse boys didn't look too hot early. Zilich blew a brake rotor. Chastain blew a brake rotor. Priest actually had his day ended because a piece of the rotor from what I presume is Chastain punctured his radiator and ended his night. And I mean, once those first two happened, they actually had showed Hocevar first. It was 30 laps in, and his right front was glowing hot. We had talked about it as we were watching the race, and it's like, how in the world is that thing going to last 300 laps? I mean, what with something like that, I know Steve Letard had made a comment about it being like too much cooling, where you're going hot, cold. You're doing all this temperature shock to it to potentially cause it to bust. I think it was Gateway in 23 or 24. I think it was 24, where we had all those brake rotor issues. Do you think that's an issue based off of the new package that they have, or is it potentially just setups they were running, or what do you think was the cause for the brake rotors going kaboom?
I think it was a little bit of everything. It might have been a parts issue as well. It is a balance. Yeah, sure. Sure, you want the brakes to be as cold as possible because you're riding them, but at the same time, you do have that, you know, going from hot air blowing into it at like, I'm going to use example numbers, 150 degrees, and the temperature of the brakes are 800. And then you go around the caution, and the air is only 70 degrees. And then your brakes go down to, let's say, 400. Then they have to go right back to 800 again. The broadcast said it best. It's kind of like putting a cold piece of glass or bowl into the freezer, putting it in the microwave, and then putting cold water back into it again. It's eventually going to crack and explode.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know if I keep forgetting if they're running ceramics or steel brakes, but
I can't remember off the top of my head either.
they can be fragile. Nothing in physics is free.
No.
So, do you run a lot of tape to keep it hot? Risk of overheating, but you have all that aerodynamics in the world. Or do you run it wide open, have this issue where hot, cold, but if it runs long and green, you have brakes a long time. It's just the balance act. I'd rather have brakes at the end because aerodynamics, that's just a driving style for me. And that's also
Yeah.
another thing as well. Driving style is we saw hosts of ours bright red, and it's like it's only what 30 laps in, and it was that bad.
Yeah, I was worried
And
for 'em, like, I thought they were gonna explode right away.
and then we saw what was it? I know Allmendinger for sure had the brakes go. Who else had their brakes go pretty heavy?
It was, um well, no, Busher didn't. I'm trying to remember who else did. Was it Busher? Busher, I think, did. But there were, like, 4 different incidents because it was Zilich, Chastain, Allmendinger. It wasn't. No, Bowman got tagged by Bubba. Bubba was just he was shoved up the track. Was it? It must have been Busher. Yes, it was Busher late in the race because he was the one that brought out the caution late, right after, Christopher Bell passed Zane Smith. So it was Busher.
That sounds about right. So you had, I know we got on a side tangent. What were we talking about?
All those brake rotor kaboom skis.
Yeah, so I think it was just, I think maybe they were given either wrong parts, which is very highly unlikely, but it's a possibility. Either that or they were given wrong weather information, or just everyone's setups were just tuned just wrong, that almost everyone was having issues and complaining about it. I think Allmendinger
Well,
said it
like,
best. He doesn't know if, if it was less downforce and they were using more brakes or what, but he said he almost had no warning for it, at least for his. And Reddick
yeah,
did
because
say
you could
something.
see.
I think his team said, why why is your, I think you said this, or you caught it. His team asked, why is your entry so shallow? And Reddick says, yeah, I'm trying to save my brakes. So
Yeah,
there
because
was talks around, about uh, the brakes being an issue and people running into, turn one or turn three almost head on. So that
yeah.
NASCAR and the teams probably need to look at that before something catastrophic happens.
Well, like they had said too, and I think Letarte mentioned it, where they can run, I think it's 2 there's 2 different options for brakes that they can run. I think it's different sizes if I recall correctly, but, like, obviously you're running 2 different risks with the big brakes, so or with the 2 different sizes of brakes, but, like, once Chastain and Zilich both had theirs blow up on them, the '97 team basically came on with SVG and said, "Hey, you don't have to worry about it. We're running a completely different setup than they are." But you had to wonder, like, they were 2 Chevys, and then Allmendinger, that's 3 Chevys. So you're thinking, "Okay, is it a Chevy thing? Is it, what's the deal with that?" But then, the more I looked into it, the more I've heard just through social media that it sounds like it was a setup failure where or a setup miss where they were not anticipating using as much brake as they were because it's higher horsepower but less downforce, so you're running the brakes or riding the brakes a little bit longer than what you were in years past. So, I don't know whether they didn't anticipate that, whether they ran the wrong brakes, I don't know what it was, but either way, definitely some issues that Trackhouse needs to look at. They need to look at what setup they used for SVG and probably use that, particularly at Gateway coming up here, but also moving forward for this package. But I mean, Allmendinger probably needs to. They probably need to take a look and see what they did with the 10 of Ty Dillon because Ty Dillon had a great finish in 12th. I mean, he was there consistently throughout the day, but just kind of mid to back of the pack, and then late, he was able to find his way towards the front, but they probably need to take a look too and say, "What did we do that or what can we do that was preventable, or what can we change to be able to prevent that?" But, yeah, late in the race, though, minus all the brake rotor issues, I was just like caution after caution after caution. I mean, what is that saying that everybody loves to say? Cautions breed cautions. I mean, It was it was a long night for sure. So it was just, one of those where, you know, the race just seemed to get longer. It was already delayed an hour because of rain, so um, just one of those nights. But it was a fun race to watch, and that finish between the Joe Gibbs teammates and uh, potentially a Zane Smith win, being in the cards, that would have been fun. But no, it was a pretty good race overall. With Allmendinger getting a surprise stage win, and Suarez getting a stage 2 win, and SVG getting his first top 5 on an oval. Can't really complain much about that. But after the going back to the trucks real quick, we kind of forgot to touch on the points here, but we'll quickly jump into the top 5 in points for right now. Uh, Lane Riggs now takes the top spot. Caden Honeycutt is second in points. Christian Eckes jumped his way up into third. Chandler Smith in fourth, and Gio Ruggiero. I always say his name wrong, but he's in fifth for the overall points. The cut line is getting pretty close. Tyler Ankrum is only 2 points above the cut line. Stuart Friesen and Daniel Hemrick are tied currently, but Stuart Friesen has the edge right now. Jake Garcia is in 11th, and Grant Enfinger is in 12th. Grant Enfinger's 24 points back of the cut line, but Jake Garcia is only 4 back. So this is the point in the summer where every single point is going to matter. The points for the O'Reilly series are not quite as close at the top. Allgaier sits way out in front of Jesse Love. Corey Day has found his way up to third. Sheldon Creed dropped back a little bit to fourth in points, and then Brandon Jones in fifth. Just kind of hanging in there doing his thing. I know he dropped down a little bit in points, but he's still fighting it and trying to stay towards the top 5, top 6, to be able to get those fairly good points going into the chase. The cut line for the O'Reilly series is still pretty tight as well. Parker Retzloff is up 17 on the cut line. Sam Mayer is up 14. Taylor Gray is the cut line. Raja is back 12 points, and Brent Cruz is 15 back. There will be a better look at everybody else around the cut line starting next week for all 3 series. But for now, I'm just getting the 2 above and 2 below, and then whoever's on the cut line. So we'll like I said, it'll be a little bit better next week. But for the Cup series here, the top 5, not too terribly surprised. It's Reddick still out in front of Denny after Denny's win. Blaney in third. Chase Elliott's moved his way in fourth, and Ty Gibbs is back in the top 5 after a pretty good finish for him as well. And then the cut line is not necessarily close above the cut line. Briscoe's 37 points above it, and Bubba's 32 above. Cindric is the cut line, but Priest is 2 points back, and Joey is 9 points back of the cut line. So it's getting real close, and it's going to be very entertaining to see what these guys can do over the course of the summer to be able to make some moves around the cut line and hopefully not be below it when the regular season ends.
Well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day, but not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be hung on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. Now, in light of what happened last week before the Charlotte race, I think we all had a pretty crappy weekend. So we're not going to do Fridge or Trash for Charlotte because I think all of us had the trashy weekend in terms of what we had to go through, paying our respects. But a little quick anecdote of that is fridge driver for that week obviously is going to be Kyle Busch. We will have a separate episode here pretty soon about it, kind of giving our thoughts and giving our experiences watching him grow up. So stay tuned for that. Now, on to Nashville. Who is your crash driver for the truck?
You know, it's pretty tough to pick a driver sometimes. Like I've noticed as we've continued to do this series and this segment, it's very difficult to pick on guys because you don't want to pick on a guy, but at the same time, if they have an off week, they've got an off week. And unfortunately, I got to go with Ben Rhodes. He just he's had a pretty decent season so far, and he was able to score some stage points, and then just was not able to put it together. It's not been the week that I know he's wanted for sure. Season wise, like I said, he's been doing pretty solid, but knowing the potential of that team and the way that they can run, a 28th place finish is not where they wanted to finish at Charlotte, but anything can change at Michigan. So I wouldn't get too down about it if I was a Ben Rhodes fan. Just kind of look forward to next week because I believe we looked at his stuff and he is literally every other week. Great finish, bad finish, great finish, bad finish. So if the trend continues, he'll be back on the up at Michigan. But who is your trash driver for the Truck Series?
I'm probably going to have to say Caden Honeycutt. Sounds like he had battery issues, but normally you can claw back from that. They just could not hit their marks. They just could not get the strategy right to get a jump on it. And it was just kind of a horrible week for him. But knowing Michigan is coming up and that style of track he's really good at, I have no doubt that he's going to be back up on top. Fridge driver? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But he's down in the dumps for me today.
Yeah. On the opposite end of the spectrum, who is your fridge driver of the week?
I was very proud of Grant Enfinger this week. Normally he's kind of had a middle of the road, kind of Melpel, okay, average finish, kind of middle of the pack. But he finished very, very well this week. I was surprised to see him up there. Hopefully that trend continues and we don't have to keep calling him a fridge driver anymore. Might be a contender. We'll have to see.
He's a good choice. I'm gonna go with Tyler Ankrum for mine. He's not had a year that I know has hoped for, but a top 5 finish for him is something to be proud of and some momentum that he can build on going into the summer months where a lot of teams or a lot of drivers will have a summer lull. Who knows? This could be a building block to get him up towards, those towards that cut line. I mean, he's above it right now, but only by 2 points. So hopefully this momentum can keep him going in the right direction to continue to build on the buffer he's got on that cut line. But for sure, great performance for him this week. Do you have we'll stay on that positive note here. Do you have a fridge driver from Nashville for the O'Reilly series?
It was kind of hard to choose from for both fridge and trash because everyone was kind of finishing. I say this almost every week with the O'Reilly series, but everyone is kind of finishing on their average. So picking, I guess that's what makes this fridge and trash more interesting in the O'Reilly series is who is standout, who is not, without saying the same drivers over and over again on each end of the spectrum. But I will say Tanner Gray stood out to me this week. Normally not that high. He's been kind of having an up and down season so far. But seeing him in the top, was it top 7 that he had?
Taylor Gray was ninth.
It was the top 10. So seeing him in the top 10, I'd pat myself on the back for that.
Yeah, great run for him. Can't complain about a top 10 day, especially when starting 27th. Kind of a rough way to start back in the pack, but good recovery for him. Um, I'm gonna go with Ryan Sieg, and I've shouted him out a couple times this year, but I'm gonna give him a really big shout out because he was able to score some stage points as well. So scoring and not just some stage points, he scored some stage points in both stages. So that's always a positive when you can get some extra bonus points that you weren't necessarily planning on. But that's what makes like staying out for the strategies kind of fun too, because you never know how it's going to turn out. And I know I said this earlier, every little point matters. He is tied with Brent Cruz right now in points, and he is 15 points back of that cut line right now. So finishing 8th and 10th, that's four stage points right there, I believe. That's 1, 9th, 8th. Yeah, that's 4 stage points he got right there. So that those 4 points could put him above or right below the cut line. You never know. So great choice for them to be able to pull off some, get some stage points and build on that. But do you have a driver in the O'Reilly series that you definitely want them to forget about their week?
I would say Sheldon Creed came in, I think, 15th.
Yep.
Normally that's an okay day, but where he normally finishes, especially with a win this year, yeah, I would probably want to try to forget about this week.
Well, unloading off the car, not where you want to either. Try qualifying 24th, starting 24th. I mean, just not. I don't think they were able to get anything right as far as adjustments. So, kind of a reset week. They do have this upcoming week off. They do not race at Michigan, which is good. They haven't had an off week yet. So, this is a much needed rest for them. Good little reset. And then they'll be back the following week at Pocono. So, a track I think he's got some potential at. I gotta put. I do have to put a driver down in the dumps, don't I?
Like I said, the
It's
O'Reilly
kind of hard.
series, they're either everyone's so close that, 5th through 10th, it could be flip flopped, or the 20th on down, they're always down there. It's like, who do you pick?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, Jeb Burton, another one that started 19th and didn't even he finished 23rd. Just no no real progress was ever really made throughout the day, and it sucks because again, you know what that 27 team can do. They can contend for top 10s, they can contend for top 5s, but with the challenges that Nashville brings and the constant adjustments you got to make throughout the day to be able to improve your grip or be able to keep up with the track is very difficult. And I think they missed the mark unfortunately and couldn't get back to where they needed to. But again, this upcoming week was a great reset for them, and they'll be able to get back to Pocono where they can definitely contend for a top 10. So I'm looking forward to seeing them at Pocono. But uh, if we go back to or go to the Cup Series here for our trash driver, who would you have to pick? Since we do have to pick one for a trash driver.
I was gonna pick Larson, but I realized that was a cop out because he did score 23 points before his pirouette the last lap.
That
I'm
the
going
broadcast didn't even show.
Yeah, which I'm okay with that little tidbit, but I'm going to go with he was going to be my fridge driver, AJ Allmendinger. Here's why. Won a stage, was running up front, was having a great day, and then your brakes decide to go on vacation. Pretty much almost 100 laps from the end. That's gotta hurt. That's gotta be yeah, you got points, but man, this is a weekend to forget. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 10 points, but then you come in the bottom third. That doesn't give you much leeway. You basically canceled out your weekend.
Yeah, not the weekend that I know they needed, and they were looking to run really well. Unfortunately, just like you said, those brakes decided to go kapoof, and no, they didn't want to participate for the rest of the night.
And
I
what was the stat that it was his first stage win since 2024, and it was his very first at an oval. So it was looking
Yeah,
like if he finished the race, he was going to be my fridge driver, even if he finished 15th. That would have been a great day. But because of, I know we don't really pick on people that wreck, the brakes were kind of a hot topic all all race long. So that
yeah,
was unfortunately the silver bullet. So
yeah. I mean, and like you said, it's tough to pick these trash drivers, and we try to avoid those that are in accidents and stuff. But I'll let you have that Almendinger one because I can see your reasoning for it, and I'm on board with it. Um, I'll have to say Cindric is my trash driver of the week. He just, 4 laps down, and he was strategy wise, he ended up staying out and getting some stage points in stage two, but getting caught up in some things in all that late race chaos pushed him back a little bit and did not did not do him any favors. And so finishing outside, 26th is not where I know they need to be. And I know Penske's had a rough year, but that's not the momentum you want to have going into the summer. But they can turn things around, and with Michigan coming up, they've got a decent shot at it. So I'm not too terribly worried about Cindric. So I would say just kind of toss the week away and start fresh. You have a driver. You alluded to Allmendinger almost being your fridge driver. Who ended up making the cut for you?
I've got two this week. Shane Van Gisbergen is my first one.
You better not steal my second one.
Uh, we'll see. We'll see. My second one's got a caveat, so we'll hold your horses.
All
SVG
right.
top five. He was up there all race. He was up there with the best of them. He almost got shuffled to about eighth or ninth, but he did crawl his way back to fifth place. I thought he was going to be top three, maybe even win the race if the flip flop and went his way, which it almost did.
Yeah.
Now my second fridge driver, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Great race. He's had it up and down. I think I hear you in the background. Hold your horses.
Yeah. I'm biting my tongue here.
My caveat here is Brad Keselowski had a valid crash out. You can't be pitting from the second lane and you can't do it that last second. That's not okay. That's a rookie move. I'm going to give Ricky Stenhouse his flowers now, but if he does it again, we might have a new episode, or we might have a new series and episode to maybe get juicy yelling audio with. But as of now,
For sure.
Stenhouse, SVG, minus Stenhouse little rookie flib.
Well, rookie, he's been in the Cup Series for how many years, for cripe's sakes? Like he should know better than that.
Right? So
But
who are your
that's
golden boys this week?
well, SVG was going to be one of mine because obviously his first top five at an oval, and like you had mentioned, hanging with the best of them. He was actually door to door with Larson on 2 tires, by the way. Just imagine if he was racing him on 4 tires, what that would have been like. That would have been as that what is that, Scorsese meme? Cinema. That would have been fantastic to watch. It was still great to watch for the I think it was 10 laps that he was battling him. But again, coming home with a top 5 on an oval and leading laps in 6 of the 14 points races so far, which matches his teammate Chastain. Would I didn't have that on my bingo card this year, so give him all his flowers because he deserves it. But my second one, and I'm surprised you didn't pick him. It was the guy when we were talking, I thought was going to win this race on strategy was Zane Smith. I mean, that boy was running really well. If Now, granted, I think he would have finished further back had that caution not come out with Busher blowing his brake rotor up. But regardless, he was running well all night, and I mean, ninth place finish for him. I think what was that? I had pulled this up. He has back to back top tens with this and then Charlotte. It's his fifth top 10 of the season, and he's already tied his career best for top tens in a season. And we're just over halfway through this season. And not a lot of people are talking about him, and we're kind of guilty of that because he's typically not running the best, but he's one to keep an eye on. Point wise, I mean, he's 20th, so not doing all that great, but he's only what is that, 34 points back of the cut line right now. So, I mean, definitely don't count him out. But I'm surprised you didn't pick Zane Smith.
Well, what kind of threw me off a little bit was if everyone pitted with him, he would have finished a lot higher. Still a great
Yeah, that
finish. Don't get me wrong. The 4 tires, the fuel, but him pitting pretty much by himself with a couple of other stragglers, 9 drivers stayed out.
that's a death
And
sentence for your hopes of winning the race, but
yeah. So that's what
it
kind of
was
threw me off a little bit. I may have overlooked it a little bit, but the other 2 drivers did have great results as well. So I
I mean,
I
I'll
will I will pseudo throw in Zane Smith as a fridge driver as well because it was if he pushed a little bit harder and maybe if it went just a little bit better, he probably would have been top 3, top 5. So
yeah.
I digress.
Well, I'll fight you on the Stenhouse one, but it's all right. I'll let that one go, but um looking ahead to Michigan, we haven't done this yet, but I do want to start looking ahead a little bit to some of the next races. We've got Michigan coming up for the Truck Series and for the Cup Series. And you got any interesting thoughts about how Michigan's going to go this week? I mean, that we've got both of them are going to be afternoon races, so it's going to be out in the sun, hopefully, if the weather cooperates. Um, I mean, any quick interesting tidbits about Michigan that you got, or
Not this week. I'll look into it. All I know is it's the Midwest in June, and we're both from the Midwest, so it's gonna be hot, sticky, humid. It's either gonna be blazing hot, hot and cloudy, or there's gonna be some of those tornadoes running around. So
yeah,
so we'll
you'd hope
we'll,
it's
we'll
not.
have we'll have to see. I think it's like I said, it's 2 miles. It's gonna be fast. It's gonna be hot. Gonna be slick. Hopefully Goodyear keeps bringing the good tires and the good and NASCAR brings the good package. So I think I've already got my fantasy lineup pretty much in line, but it could change midweek.
You got any favorites you can foresee winning at Michigan, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants on that one?
If you look at that 15 points, I think that's your top 12, let's say. I'm blindly saying the top 12 in points right now for both series. Though that can be your best bet right there to pick from.
That's fair. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I know he's had some rough luck here, but I'm banking on a Ford driver winning this weekend. I've either got Busher or, and I know I don't believe he hasn't won there yet, but Bad Brad might be in store for one. I'm pulling for RFK this weekend, um, which I typically don't do. I don't go for like an organization, but I think the Fords and I think RFK in particular has a really good shot to win this weekend. So this could either be a really great prediction or clip it for next week and play the womp womp, you know, trombone if that's the case. But either way, like I said, it's been fun this week. I know it's going to be a longer episode than usual, but we did decide to take that week off out of respect for Kyle and the Bush family. But definitely stay tuned for our thoughts on Kyle and reflecting on his life and career. We don't have a date on when that will be, but just definitely stay tuned for that. But we, like I said, we've got Michigan coming up this week, just the Truck and Cup Series. So um, should be a fun one. Like you said, Midwest, early June. Don't know what to expect, but it'll be a ton of fun to watch anyway. But thank you guys for listening, tuning in, all of that, and we will we'll be updating you guys after the race in Michigan next week. But be safe, and we'll see you guys next week.